Retro anime. How did we find it? How does it hold up? Unpacking the ins and outs of being an old school nerd and proving that 80s kids can't remember a damn thing right. These are the mindless midlife musings of the anime nerd.
Welcome to Mindless Midlife Musings of the Anime Nerd. I'm Rick, and I'm joined by the rest of our panel, Lynette, Vic, and Brian. How's everyone doing today?
Hola.
How's it going?
All right, in this episode, we sortie and take to the skies as we sign up for the Foreign Legion in Area 88. Area 88 is a 1985 OAV produced by Studio Pierrot. I don't know, I'm guessing on that pronunciation. The series consists of 3 episodes released between 1985 and 1986, and it is based on the manga by Kaoru Shintani. It was released in North America by Central Park Media in 1992. They followed it up with a DVD release in 2000, and after their license lapsed, ADV picked it up and did a DVD release, and then Discotech did a DVD release. I think they were the last ones in 2018. This has no relation to the 12-episode series that was released in 2004, other than they're both based on the same original book. And so story is pretty interesting. It follows Shin, who is a pilot, Yamato Airlines. He's an aspiring airline pilot. He's about to the gig he's going to be real happy about. And then his best friend in the whole wide world, motherfucker, takes Shin out, gets some shit faced, and signs him up for the Foreign Legion.
You would have thought they would have said, you know what? Maybe this is not the way we should be operating.
Right, like the king, the country, Aslan. You think they would have been like, I feel like we could recruit people a little bit better than this.
Yeah. No, your sign's right here. You gotta do it.
Shin has an issue picking out friends, apparently.
That's the very first statement. That's the very first statement. But the thing about it is, we live in a world where we have things like repossessions and bankruptcies, where the strength of a man's signature is not as awe-defining of a moment as what portrayed to be in this one.
True.
You signed this doc? I was fucking drunk. Listen, well.
Like, oh, you can leave, but you'll be a deserter and we get to shoot you.
So yeah, it was according to the English on the document, it was 1979 when he signed his life away. Mm-hmm. So, not saying things were that different back then. We still had bankruptcies and foreclosures and shit, but back then you could still sign checks and those could get taken, so your signature did have some power to it.
Right. They made it seem like it was a blood oath that was done with sorcery of necromandius.
Well, apparently in Aslan, your signature is like the word of God.
That's it.
Yeah, we're not even talking about Aslan from the line from Chronicles of Narnia.
No, this isn't
not that Aslan. We're talking about the country Aslan that doesn't even have a fucking military, but the signature is supposed to be the all end all be all. Got it. Check.
I feel like they had a military, but they didn't have a big enough military. Hence the because
that's what it was.
Because this is Area 88, and then it clearly in what's it like the second or third episode, you come across some a famous Parisian military historian guy who's like, well, areas 18 and 8 were merged, and area 17, and he's going through like a whole list. And like, we don't care about that. We just want to know where this photo was taken. So he does make it sound like they have a military force. It just must not be very big. And then they decide to augment it by forcing people into labor.
Right.
I don't know.
It was like, what was it, a coup, a civil war? Which essentially means they're fighting themselves.
Right. It was a civil war between dads. Yeah.
The plot of this is actually thinner than, say, something like, I don't know, slavery.
I would hope that the plot to an anime is thinner than hundreds of years of human enslavement, Brian.
Right. I mean,
Um,
you would say it's indentured servitude, but these motherfuckers are making millions of dollars.
so I
I
do
guess
take
that was the
issue.
plus side. You know, it's like, yeah, you signed your life away, but you get paid really well.
I do take issue with some of this in the sense of, and I'll get to that. I mean, just the whole idea of you can buy your way out. I just feel like, man, there's a saying that if the penalty for breaking a law is a fine, then that penalty only exists for the poor. That's what signing up for this military is like. It's like, oh, if you're rich and you get drunk, you sign your life away. It's like you're fine the next day, cut a check. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're poor and you sign your life away, you're fucked. And that's what they were banking on, and that sucks. It's just another one of those classist things. But actually, I'm really clear. I like this anime. I did. I hated it. I hated how it ended. That annoyed the shit out of me.
Oh yeah, the ending was.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Save it.
But I did like this anime. Now remember, this came out in 1992, Brian. Right? This was Blockbuster Video had this. I remember. I picked it up off the
Mhm.
shelves, and the opening act, pretty baller, right? There's these tanks in the desert, and all of a sudden the air support's flying in and bombing the shit out of them. It's very cool, especially for military brat. I was like, damn, this is dope. Because we totally said that in 1992. Damn, this is dope. So just kept.
That's where we use dope.
Yeah, that's what it was, right? I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I watched the shit out of this because not only was it action and anime, and I was totally into that, and I was riding the high of Super Dimension Fortress Macross with their jets, and then also being a military brat working at an Air Force base with a dad whose whole sole existence job was repairing fighter jets. For me, the plane porn was fantastic. I was so into this anime.
You know what? When you talk about the plane porn, you know what it felt like to me. You ever seen them posters and they have like planes of the Korean War or planes of World War II,
Right?
or planes of the Persian Gulf, and you see all these fighter jets and they're just all lined in there. None of the jets were the same, but
Right. Yeah.
pretty badass to see everything in there. And I was like, okay, all right, I see what you're
They
doing.
got all the coolest planes. That's what you guys get.
They had everything. They had everything in this. F-16s, F-4s.
They even had an
F-5s.
A Warthog.
Yes, they had a fucking 8. That's literally, I was gonna say the A-10. They had an A-10. It was so cool. They had the F-20, which was a little funny, and I mean I could dig into that if we really want to, but I don't feel like that's necessarily a topic of conversation. They even in the manga apparently they had other like a Grumman X-29. So the manga artist and writer clearly had a thing for planes. That showed in this anime. In this anime, you want incredibly well hand drawn aircraft action sequences. This is your anime. If you want to care about a single motherfucker inside these cockpits, this maybe isn't your anime.
I'm gonna save this, but I'm interested to find out how the net feels about this one so far.
I thought it was incredibly violent, which was cool, you know. Um, the best part I would have to say was the trick shot of blowing the back of the dude's head off inside the cockpit of the plane because he was making everybody mad.
Yeah.
Just because he was dying. I mean, that's still a thing. He's dying, so he's freaking out, and so that precision shot through the back of his head in the plane, and they're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I would have to say that the callousness of it was kind of like I was like, "Whoa, this is kind of harsh." I mean, it's like when they did that sneak attack to the base to get all the fuel pieces, and he's like, "Don't worry, pay attention to what you're doing." And it's like one plane goes boom, and he goes, "Okay, just keep focusing. Let's just go." It's like you just lost 3 planes in turn 4. And you're just like, "Oh, don't worry, we can have supper when we get home," or I'm thinking about Dunkin' Donuts while,
Yeah. Yeah.
totally calm.
Oh, we got the whole trench run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
French
Yeah,
fry.
yeah. Do you want to hold on that moment, or do you just want to just beat the shit out that one moment?
Look, I think it's worth talking about. I liked it. I liked it a lot, because it felt a little bit trench run from Star Wars, felt a little bit apropos of nothing. It's the Top Gun had the whole like flying through the trench thing in Maverick, so it was revisit it now. It had like an extra level of relevance to it, and I was like, I like this, and it was some beautiful destruction.
Oh yeah.
So, we live. This is being recorded in 2023. I mean, 2023 for the aliens that we're deeming the historic transmission to. But I just want to make sure you said this was recorded in 19 when?
85. It was animated.
It was made in 85.
5. And it was the first trench run since that was really well done since, say, A New Hope, Star Wars A New Hope.
Easily.
But how many trench runs have we had since this moment? Like you said, you have Top Gun, Maverick,
Right.
but you also have a little known movie that people forget about, Iron Eagle 2.
Okay, I was gonna bring up Iron Eagle later on. It's like this had like Iron Eagle. It felt like it had Iron Eagle written all over it.
I'm with you. I'm with
glad
you.
I'm not the only one though.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, it definitely had. I mean, definitely had some of that vibe for sure.
So I'm bringing that up because when we're talking about how Japanese anime influences, just pop culture, a big one we've already addressed is the Akira bike slide, right?
Oh yeah,
I would say that this is by far the best trench run I have ever seen, ever executed.
I thought it was fucking great.
It was
Really
beautifully
good.
done. Considering
Actually,
the quality of the animation wasn't the greatest overall, but yeah, the effort they put into it, it was really nice.
so that was the note I had about the animation. You know me, guys. I usually wax crazy nostalgic about animation, but this one, the animation was very middling until the third episode. The third episode, it felt like they got a hell of a budget boost because
It's like they went out with a bang.
planes are getting shot down in episode 3. I was like, damn. This is like they're showing the rivets on these motherfuckers. It was very cool. But yeah, in the first 2 episodes, it was like, meh.
See, that's why you need to start. You really need to start some type of supplemental episode because I was going to make the comment that this was phenomenal animation. I thought it was phenomenal.
I loved episode 3's animation. It was fantastic. Episodes 1 and 2, it's not
Really?
that
I thought 1 and 2 were pretty good.
Oh no, it's not that they were bad. Not by any stretch of the
They weren't
imagination.
bad. I mean, compared to everything else that was released at the time, that was actually pretty good.
I mean, we're talking 1985.
Exactly.
And we've been doing a lot of Ghibli this year, so it's very hard to hold other anime to that standard. So I don't. But considering what it is and when it came out, yeah, the animation's great. Look at this compared to other things from that era. Look at it compared to Super Dimension Fortress Macross. Look at it compared to Fist of the North Star. Look at it compared to, those early to mid 80s anime. Yeah, hell yeah, it looks great. It was a noticeable jump in episode 3 for me where I went, oh, wow, they got a budget. It was just enough that I was like, okay, they're going all out. Not to mention the fact that episode 3 was almost as long as the first 2 episodes combined.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that when I suggested this series.
I'm sorry. God damn it. I hate when I'm at odds with you guys.
Go ahead.
It's almost like this because my whole note with this was this is the epitome of beautiful destruction.
I'm not arguing that fact. Episode 3's destruction was fucking
for
dynamite.
episode 3, like it had me hooked in from episode 1.
I'm not saying 1 and 2 were bad. I'm saying 3 was the best of them. 3 was like when they got their budget boost. It was to me noticeably better in 3 than it was in 1 and 2. It's just like saying the third slice of pizza tasted better because it had the right balance of ingredients. The first 2 still tasted fucking great. It's just the third one was the one I was like, damn, that was a good slice.
Nobody's going to be able to get that from the way we're talking about it right now. You need to set the expectation of, in regards of animation, where do you place this because I'm going to say something, and I promise you, as I say these words, I may lose 2 friends.
We promise not to crucify you.
Definitely not.
Vilify, maybe. Crucify, absolutely not.
You're gonna say what I want to say, that this is some of the best fighter jet animation ever rendered.
I was actually going to say, I think that the fighter jet animation in this one is so much better than Super Dimensional Fortress Macross.
I absolutely.
So for the TV series, I would agree.
Right, exactly what I was going to say. For the TV series, you have my 100% support. Absolutely. TV series animation, on top of being 3 years younger, Super Dimension Fortress Macross, it was handled by weaker studios. For certain. Absolutely agree with you. This is by far the best fighter jet animation I've ever seen. It's fantastic. Now, you asked me to compare this to Macross Do You Remember Love? Them's fighting words. We'll cover that in another episode someday. But for now, I totally agree with you, Brian. You ain't losing a friend on that one. You have my absolute support.
Absolutely.
I can honestly say that I was terrified right now.
So no crucifixion or vilification. You're okay.
This is I love the fighter jet. The care they took animating fighter jets in this. The renderings of the cockpits, to the way that they handled. I mean, there's that scene in where's the fuck's my note? And I wrote it because I'm like, God damn, when Buxy's pulling like a fucking 8G climb with the photog as his Rio, and then he's like going blind from the blood flow from the G's. I was like, God damn, this is all the shit that I wanted to see in like movies. They were doing it.
It felt, when it comes to the physics of it, it felt like I was dealing with the same amount of care that's placed into stuff like Gunbuster. We talked about the science of Gunbuster and how much it really drug us in, and I feel the same way happens in this one, especially in regards to like the G eyes or gravity eyes. They're the actual term used.
Yeah, like G-Lock, but when you go G-Lock, it's like you pass out. So this is definitely right before G-Lock. And just because I love fighter jets and I grew up an Air Force brat doesn't mean I know a goddamn thing about flying a plane. So anything I say, take it with a grain of salt. It was still cool as fuck, and they did that consistently. The only thing is, like, sometimes they get. I mean, like you were saying, Lynette, he fucking sniper shot his own ally when the friendly fire scene. I'm like, all right, look, I don't know a lot about fighter jets. But I know it's really fucking hard to hit a target as small as a human head from that far away.
And going at those speeds.
Right, and they not only did that, but then they did it inverted, shooting explosives off of a 747. So, you know, there's a little room for suspension of belief here.
A little fantastical.
I was still into it. I didn't care. I was like, fuck yeah. Go get him, Maverick. I do want to talk about, so again, this came out in 1992. Really, we didn't have we had the Iron Eagle movies, we had Top Gun, the first one. Like we were in the heyday of fighter jet jockeys and like how that was going. So when this dropped in 92, it was like perfect timing. The manga picked a perfect time to be around. I don't know that it would be as successful. Well, now that Top Gun Maverick came out, it would probably be just as successful. But up until then, I don't know that it would have been as popular as it was when it came out. This was very popular. I mean, this was popular enough to spawn a video game.
Oh, yeah.
A really great video game. UN Squadron. It was
UN Squadron here in the U.S.
Right, Area 88 everywhere else. But it was, and I don't know why, I didn't even bother to look it up, but for some reason they call the UN Squadron over here. Fantastic arcade game.
Because, you know, fighting for the UN sounded much better than being a bunch of mercenaries killing for money.
Right, I guess. But at the same time...
At least like, back then.
I mean, I don't, whatever. It's fine. Like, nobody cared. Like, nobody was playing...
The people playing the game didn't care, but, the parents that supplied the money for those things...
Dude, nobody
they were a bit whiny back then.
So this is you're saying that this spawned a video game.
Yes.
Yeah. This anime was so popular, it got a Capcom video game. It got UN Squadron. It was a fantastic shoot 'em up arcade game.
I would like to say that this is one of the first times that I've actually heard it's normally reversed. Like we see Street Fighter and then we see the Street Fighter anime.
Right.
Or we see, Fatal Fury, same thing.
Right.
This is actually the first time because I recall Area 88 or UN Squadron.
Yeah.
And now I see that this was a movie. So I would have thought that, oh my God, this was a movie that was based off of the anime.
Right. Yeah.
The same formula, but actually it's reversed. So that's pretty cool.
Which, I mean, at
Well,
the
a
time.
previous series that we recorded, Yu Yu Hakusho also had a series of games
It
based
did.
off the anime.
It did, but in the early 80s.
Oh yeah.
In the mid 80s when this came out, it was a lot less common because video games weren't. It was this, and again, we'll keep talking about. There's a lot to compare. With Super Dimension Fortress Macross, they got their game as well, a couple of them. But not a lot of anime were getting video game spin-offs. Not then.
And if they were, they weren't the greatest of games.
Right. So you're
literal
right.
cash grabs.
You're right, Brian, in that it was fairly unique for its time. But now the practice is huge. Now it's like as soon as you have an anime, it's a property. Let's make a game.
Mm-hmm.
The name of the GeForce Eyes is Red Sight.
There you go. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. That on-site fact check. They got Red Sight. Yeah, because they didn't do a G-Log. It didn't pass out, but they got Red Sight, which I loved that. It was so cool. It was shitty. It was shitty. I just wrote, did he pick the worst pilot to ride with? Because did Bugsy not have staff or flare? Like his one option when somebody got lock on him was, I'm gonna pull up really fucking hard, try and get away from this missile.
And we're talking about the photographer who was in the back seat, right?
Yeah. He was riding Rio for Bugsy in there, and it was an F4, I think they were in, and he's trying to get away from a missile lock or a missile's fired, smoke in the air, but he couldn't get away from it. So his one decision on how to avoid this missile was pull up and go really fucking fast.
Fight gravity by going up, and
go ahead.
So I had a note about, since we're talking about Rocky, that the people who came in there as like subsequent characters or guest starring, it felt like Game of Thrones and how dirty they got done.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. Yes, but it also felt very episodic. So knowing this was a manga before watching this, which I didn't in 92, now knowing it was a manga before watching it, you can kind of tell it was like, oh, this was a chapter in the manga. This new character has shown up. It was like totally a chapter in the manga. Because we had the so yeah, you start off with Rocky, which great. Then we had the where the fuck was my note on this? And I'm like, are we serious? Escape killers. I'm air quoting.
Mm-hmm.
Show up in the middle of episode. Show up like really early actually in episode 1, and you're like, oh, these guys are clearly bad news. They got villain eyebrows and everything.
Yes.
At first, I'm like, is it because they're black? And then the episode,
they had villain forehead. That one guy had a villain forehead.
And then they cut to the group of soldiers. I go, no, there's black guys in there, so it's not because they're black. These guys are just evil. They're not. It's not some kind of racial thing. So what's funny is that was the weakest fucking use of a character or 3 characters. They're like, oh, we're the escape killers. It's like the beginning of episode 2, and then all the other guys are like, get the fuck out of here. All right, we're going, but next time, Gadget, take off.
Like you brought them in, and I'm like, this dude's taking tons of pictures of them. They look really menacing with the pointy eyebrows. All they were missing was the thing over their face to say over 9,000. Like, really, that was kind of what I was for.
Wow, she said they were saying evil.
They
definitely had a Saiyan forehead.
They did. They had that Vegeta forehead going on.
But then they
And
went quiet, like the
yeah,
whole time, quiet, nothing. I was like, well, "What are these guys? What's going
wasted
on?"
plot point. Same thing with Prince
Right?
Valiant or Charlie, the Phoenix. Like he showed up, and I'm like, well, this guy's a bad guy. Like, as soon as he
Yes.
was like,
No,
well, he's clearly a
what
bad
killed me about Charlie is that he gets shot down.
guy. No, he does not
Charlie.
get shot down, Brian. Bird strike takes this motherfucker out.
Yes. He gets killed by a pigeon or a seagull.
Fair enough.
Seagulls killed Charlie the Phoenix. Seagulls.
Weaponized seagulls.
You know, just for
Really, I was
nobody to
like,
talk about. For nobody to talk about, so nobody gonna say that Charlie was the one that tried to shoot him down. We're not gonna talk about that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Charlie is bad. As soon as he landed, I'm like, oh, he's the assassin. Like, because they had just
yeah.
established that Kanzaki, who's a fucking monster, they just established that he tried to get an Italian hitman to send somebody to kill his childhood fucking friend who's
Yes.
with him in the orphanage. Christ, Kanzaki's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
So thank
For a
you.
girl.
Thank you for bringing that up. Where was the fucking orphanage located at? Because here's my problem. We have an Italian antagonist who is friends with a Japanese protagonist, and they met in the orphanage. Where would this orphanage at where we have such a United Nations delegation?
Well, I mean, the bad guy's name is Satoru Kanzaki, so he's Japanese. He just
No, he's
happened-
Italian. No, he's Italian.
My Italian's a little rusty, but I'm pretty sure that's not how it sounds.
I promise you, he's Italian.
I trust you. I'm just like flabbergasted that an Italian has the name Satoru Kanzaki. But that does make more sense as to why he would have gone to the Italian mafia to get a hit on somebody. Oh man, I don't know. I want to say Paris. You know why? Because fucking everything else in this series took place in Paris. Everything was Paris.
Paris or Aslan.
Aslan.
Yeah.
That was it.
Can we just for the rest of the show instead of saying Aslan, because I feel like I'm disparaging Liam Neeson, I feel like we should just say Narnia.
Okay, whatever. I'll try my best. You want to say it with the Japanese alliteration? Azran?
Asran?
You know, the L's and R's. It's a common.
No,
You can go
I feel
with
like
Azran.
Irish Liam Neeson is going to come for me, so I think I feel better talking about Narnia
Those
as
are
opposed
special
to
skills.
Aslan.
I'm fine with it. All right. So for the record, how did you guys watch? Dub, sub,
Did you even have to ask me?
sub. So we got subs, and Brian did dubs.
No, I actually did the first one dubbed,
Yeah.
and the other two I did subbed.
I tried to do it.
I'm so proud of you, Brian.
I tried to do it dubbed as well, and I got 3 minutes into the first episode, and I was like, "Holy shit, I hate this!" And I immediately stopped it because the voice actor, whoever the hell played Shin in the English dub, was appallingly bad. Just unbelievable in everything he said. And this continued into other characters. Most of the dub was pretty.
Let's just talk about Shin for a second. You know, Shin as a protagonist, I thought Shin was a little bitch.
Shin was the typical Japanese hero character of that era. Kind of wooden, sort of like lacking a lot of personality. They were I don't know if it was like so you could see yourself in the character kind of shit, but a lot of heroes from that era had the same MO. It was that same
Just got roped into something he didn't want to do. He just wants to go home.
Had the matching hair for other pieces. That's how you knew he was the good guy. He had the fancy hair.
He had the Fokker hair coming down.
His hair was so long you actually saw it throughout the helmet. And I was like, that you would have thought that he would use a motherfucking hair tie.
Right, just
during those moments in time. I don't care if you want to have Vidal Sassoon hair. Don't care about that. But what I'm saying is Paul Mitchell bangs during this moment is probably not the best thing.
Credit where
fact that
Oh
credit.
yeah, with the level of sniping he was doing from a plane, he needs both eyes available.
I was
He
just
was
gonna
the
say.
best one-eyed pilot. That's
There you
what
go.
it was.
said at this
Yeah.
moment in time that I could only see to the left. I can't see to the right.
Well, wait.
Perception's really weak.
He was like those famous sword fighters where they say, "Don't make me switch hands," right? So
Yeah,
he covers the eye.
that's right.
He goes, "Don't make me flop this one out. You guys are gonna have problems."
It's like, oh
So,
shit, he pulled his hair back. He's invincible.
so my problem with Shin is that clearly he's a savant, or
Well,
the word we will be looking for is prodigy.
I
At killing people, and
do
then he hates that he's so good at doing this.
right.
So, what's the best way I can think about this and put this into people who have not seen this? Imagine Michael Jordan, and you find out that Michael Jordan hates playing basketball.
He
Or
just happens to be good at it.
or that, yeah, like Michael Jordan really wanted to play soccer, and he was like training to be a soccer player, and then he accidentally signed with the Bulls and was being forced to play basketball, but was the fucking best ever at it. Yeah, that's kind of, it's like an adjacent thing. He was trying to be a freaking airline pilot, like a commercial airline pilot. He spent like 3 months in Asran's boot camp, and suddenly
Narnia.
greatest
Narnia.
killing. I said Asran, so suddenly he became the greatest killing machine, outperforming an F-14 pilot who served as air support in Viet fucking Nam.
Yep.
He's just one of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, outperforming them all.
Just happens to be the best there,
I mean that's
without wanting to actually try.
like I'm
He
not
just wanted to
surprised
go home.
by any of that. Really, I mean, from an anime standpoint, this is an MO we're all pretty used to. Did really like supporting cast in this. Each one of them, a lot of them really felt like they had good characters. I liked Mickey. I liked that he randomly ran into his ex-girlfriend in Greece. Like, that was fucking funny. Um,
Like I felt Mickey was the I almost died just now again. I almost died. I felt like Mickey was the Roy Fulker we deserved.
right. Yeah, he was great. He was charming, he was funny, he was good. And he had, for some reason, did not like Rocky. I remember Rocky that wanted to like shake his hand, and Mickey just stared him down, and he was like, all right then. So and they never really explored that. I wish they would have, because that was kind of an interesting, like, that they bothered to put that in at all.
No, you didn't explore any of the other characters. I think Mickey was by far the one that gave the most, I guess, attention to.
Did, without a doubt. Yeah. Because he was number 2. Shin
But-
showed up number 1.
Even they even gave you a little backstory about Mickey, about when he went back into when he was actually civilian, after being in the war.
Yeah, he had to get himself back in.
So I am going to take that as a segue to talk about it. It's one of the things that I wrote later in this, and it has to do with sort of the ending, how everything unfolds. And I think if there's an overreaching theme for this, is what war does to people. And I think that's the story they wanted to tell while making it an exciting action series.
That's what that was your thing that you got. What war does to people.
What war does to people. Just like Mickey was example of Shin's future. Like Mickey was the person that Shin would become.
I actually got a different message.
Go ahead.
My message was choose a better laundry detergent.
Go on. This is deep. I respect that. This is definitely an important message.
Because everyone's talking about the smell of gunpowder and blood. That for blood you can get that out with some tap water. Not tap water, but was that soda water?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That, some spit. Spit gets the blood right out.
Yeah, get the blood right out. As for the gunpowder, seriously, you can replace. I would actually have a note that I understand the smell of gunpowder because I'm a barbecue savant and I know smoked meat. So,
Oh shit.
So
Yeah,
I was like, yes, you can't. It's the difference between propane and charcoal.
but yeah, I mean, I guess that could be the message, but it's definitely not the one I got. The message I got definitely circling around how difficult it is for soldiers to acclimate to civilian life and the
Even
desire
the
to go
civilians
back.
in there need to smell of gunpowder.
And the gunpowder. I mean, obviously, an addiction to gunpowder. I feel like that maybe need to look into the addictive nature of the scent of gunpowder. Oh, yeah, that's a thing.
Right. We don't want to try, I don't know, cologne. Maybe put in a fabric sheet into your dryer. That could we could try that.
It might work out. I don't know.
Some Downy fabric softener works wonders.
But real quick, but in all actuality, I actually thought that the overreaching thing was a bit of Top Gun with PTSD and survivor's remorse.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The note I wrote was kind of based on something I'd noticed a lot. Just like how many times have I heard stories of soldiers who couldn't return to civilian life, so they reenlisted or they found a different profession that was adjacent, and that's sort of how we as a country and all countries really have just the best training and the ability to turn boys and girls into soldiers. None of us really have a process or a training to turn them back into civilians. People get, people who see combat, they come back. A lot of them have a really hard time adjusting to civilian life because it's just not what their brains have been trained and weaponized.
Bro,
And
you were opening a can of worms on that one. You just don't know. But that statement is we know how to turn people into soldiers. We don't know how to turn them back.
yeah,
And more often than not, they have to find something that's adjacent to what they were doing.
right. That's been my experience in with anybody who, well, not anybody, with a lot of the people who I've met who served. They end up in something adjacent to military service, be it police force, security work, be it enlisting in a different branch of government. Like there's we have a very hard time turning killers back into civilians. Now, I don't mean that in a negative way. Not killers. I mean soldiers. We teach them to do this, but we can't bring them back from it. And
I really wish you could understand how powerful of the statement that you're making right now. I don't think you. I know you're saying this from either a military brat standpoint or just somebody who's lived, in this country, you know. But that statement is so fucking powerful. We actually have people who have to deal with the PTSD of their military service.
right.
And it truly does not matter what you actually did in the military. You can have. I myself have never been in a combat theater. However, as a nuclear engineer, I've had to deal with the way that the military has made my brain think.
Sure.
You know,
You're always on.
yeah, you're always on. Shout out to my younger brother Daryl. He is, as everybody knows, this is a portion of the show that we rarely get to. But if you are suffering from PTSD or any mental ailments from your military service, go to the VA and receive help.
Please. That's kind of my point. I know I'll never know what it's like to be on the other end of that. I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too lazy. It doesn't matter. The point is I have eyes. I still see what it does to my brothers and sisters, to my friends, to their families, and this anime touches on that. And it touched on that enough that I was taken aback by it because I'm like I was watching Shin suffer in the most minimalist anime fashion, just being unable to find his place in the world for just a fucking night. He couldn't handle it. And Mickey addressing that fact that he had to come back because of, like Brian was joking, the smell of blood and gunpowder. But that's a euphemism for that life. And
A great example. a great example of what you're speaking of is the movie The Hurt Locker.
Right.
Where you get addicted to this action, but there is a level of, for instance, we're talking about people who in this anime alone,
Right.
just anime alone,
Anime alone, right?
Who wanted to be a commercial pilot, gets out, finally finds his way out, and he's like, no, after one night, I need to go back to being a fighter pilot.
Saw no other recourse after all the bloodshed that he'd done. Saw no other recourse for himself but to return to that world because he didn't know how to live as a civilian. He didn't understand how to just be. That sucked. That hurt a lot watching it. I was like, God damn it, she's on the phone, you motherfucker. Just go to her.
And I feel like it probably could have ended slightly different if he got a hold of her like first thing.
So imagine, I just want to throw a hypothesis out there or a hypothetical situation out there, which, for the record, is not hypothetical at all.
No, of course.
You saw the possible glimpse of somebody who got out and said that they had to go back in to do this, right?
Right.
What happens to a person who gets out and any choice of being able to go back to that life or anything resemblance is also taken away from them?
Right, it's removed because either they received damage, they're injured and they're incapable of serving now, or they're too old to serve now, or to just, I mean, whatever the multitude of reasons that they can't get back into that world. It's the only one they know, especially career soldiers, people who've been at it for
he's only been
4 or 5
years.
tours. Yeah, he was in 2.5 fucking years and he got out and he was changed forever. That to me was the most powerful thing about this anime. The action sequences were fantastic and airplane porn was amazing and I loved all that. But what I was left with was genuine sorrow. I was left with genuine sorrow for this character because I wanted him to have a happy ending. And in his head, he seems happy on his way back because it's the only world he knows. And I'm like, motherfucker, you're flying to your death. It was depressing. It's apparently not as depressing in the manga, so I guess there's that. If you want to have a happier version of that, the manga's your way to go. But it's very ambiguous, but the reality of the situation is he's flying into a firefight he can't win.
Mm-hmm. Heavily outnumbered. God knows how many people will be left when he gets there.
Right. So, yeah, the ending bothered me a lot, but it also was powerful for what it was. Again, we're talking about an anime from the mid 80s. It's not going to get deep. It's not going to be that deep. 3 episodes. It's the length of one Lord of the Rings movie to watch this whole thing.
The reality is that pop culture is defined by 2-hour movies. It's not just, this one has just as much, the ability of this one to affect people just as great as something like Top Gun.
Sure.
You can't go to certain bars without hearing Highway Through the Danger Zone and everybody initially having a Need for Speed reference coming out in their fucking mouth.
100%.
The effect this has, like, we're not even just talking about Highway Through the Danger Zone. If anybody comes up there and starts singing You've Lost That Love and Feeling in a Navy song,
yeah,
which before this, it was never a thing.
Yeah, 100%. No, the movie made it.
Like our theme song, like the Navy song, is Anchors Away. Not at the Top Gun, it isn't. It's fucking
Yeah, you're right. I'm not giving it enough credit. It does attempt to talk about it, and I'm sure. And in the manga, they probably spend a lot more time on it, and it probably gets more attention. But the fact that it's even in there at all made me I don't know, proud, but made me glad to see it being addressed at all.
If it wasn't for the fact that it did begin to address it, I would have been pissed with the ending.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because it felt like everything that they were doing leading up to that moment completely just etch a sketch that shit away.
Yeah.
Take the whole damn screen and shake it.
Right,
And
because
it's
he'd been
no longer-
addressing it. He'd been addressing it for 3 hours, that he's turned into a killer and how many more lives is the devil going to make him take and all this. And I'm like, I hear you, bro. I hear you. I can feel you. That's why. All right. So in 1992, I was, freshly driving a car, full blown teenager, hormones, whatnot, whatever. When I watched this the first time, and the character Ito, the deserter, he's sitting in his chair, and he said he just wanted to meet the Japanese guy who turned into such a legendary killer. And he decided that it wasn't something he could do, and he would rather die than become that. And I laughed like a motherfucker when he cried out for his mama and he got shot to death. I thought, that was a waste of time. What a stupid character. Now as an adult, my heart goes out to that character. I'm just like, that blew me away on a level that I didn't expect, coming back to it after all these years. And he signed up thinking he was going to be something else, got there and realized that he couldn't do it, and chose death rather than become a killer. He died with his morals intact. That was me. It was far more powerful than it was when I was a teenager and not thinking straight.
And that was episode 2, right?
Was it? I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
So you get the difference between the conscientious objector, which is what we're basically talking about right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then on the flip side, you have the being hired, having someone hired to kill you. I thought the best thing about episode 2 was he is walking through the desert, walking through his doom, and he's like, I can't survive. I mean, he's going through all this just to make it right back to where he fucking started.
That
to me was the foreshadowing. It's like I knew exactly how this thing was going to end. And because subconsciously he's running away. Well, consciously he's running away, but subconsciously his body is taking him right where he's going to end up forever.
Pulling him right back in.
I knew he was a doomed character when he did that unknowingly. It's one of those things when you wander and we wind up in a place and you're like, oh, I haven't been there in so long. I remember this place, but you weren't consciously walking there. So when he did that, I was like, oh, he's never leaving, no matter what. That was just basically what that was.
Yeah, he was damned.
Mm-hmm.
And he even knows it. Like, he calls it out. He starts bitching at the devil himself. How many more people are you gonna make me kill? Like, you keep bringing me here. It was, I don't know. It's for an anime that has like, it dances the line between like action, Top Gun, bravado, and then flipping it and giving you, I don't know, the consequences of war. Not on civilians or collateral damage, but on the soldiers we make fight the war. And I thought that was I loved that. I loved that about this. Depressing as fuck, but I thought it was great. It's interesting to have that line walked when clearly, like, they're trying to make this an entertaining action anime. Like, they've got freaking rock and roll baller opening songs on the anime, and the How Far to Paradise from the first episode. They were trying to do something with it, and the story is just like, nah, we're gonna finish this our way. I don't know. It was, to me, it was a lot more powerful than I remembered it being. Is I guess what it is. And let me just say, it had villain that I love to hate. He was fucking terrible in every single thing. Kanzaki was terrible in every
he was
aspect
trash
of his fucking life. He was a monster. Just every time he opened his mouth, he did something more despicable than the last thing he did. And I'm just like, this guy is spiraling into evil. He's Lex Luthor level.
Actually, not Lex Luthor. You know who I thought the first thing I thought about after watching this? He reminded me of Count Mondego from
Oh yeah,
Count of Monte Cristo.
100%. That's an excellent reference. Yeah, yeah, dude. He was that motherfucker. Couldn't stand seeing his best friend living living a life of happiness. Had to stomp him down at every turn. You're right, man. That is exactly the relationship they had. Well done. Just toxic. Man, Kanzaki's a motherfucker.
Yeah, he was trash.
I actually thought that we were going to actually start taking some time to talk about Nguyen.
Go ahead, please. He was interesting too. So he was interesting because he was also kind of like Shin's destiny, much like Mickey was. So was Nguyen. Nguyen was like, dude, I'm you. Just wait. That's basically what he kept saying.
I thought that it's so like when you're looking at movies like Top Gun or Iron Eagle or even Memphis Belle,
Oh,
right?
another excellent one.
We basically say there's not really too many ways a person can die, from a plane. It's either going to be from bleeding or an explosion, or what I'm saying it's one or two ways: gunfire or explosion.
Sure. Right.
This does a great job of just showing you exactly how bad your life can be once you decide to get into a cockpit. The wind shooting that guy who parachuted out, I thought that was so fucking baller.
And a war crime, but
Yeah, it was definitely
was dirty.
some Lord Voldemort type shit. But god damn, it was pretty.
It was, and poetic as fuck. I loved how they paid that forward, or paid that back. I guess it was
karma.
Excellent karma of the highest order. It was so good. Really, I mean, he was nowhere near Kanzaki. Kanzaki was next level, but Nguyen was.
When we're talking about beautiful destruction, right?
Yeah.
We're like the things that the way they shot people in this was just sometimes I don't want to say it was over the top, but it definitely made me just have a moment in terms of just the amount of destruction that was there.
Yeah. Again, beautiful destruction. Horrible carnage. Not war porn. Not in the sense of like, oh my god, it was more just like, damn, like that's a way to go. Every time a pilot bought it, you just go, damn, that sucked.
Which kind of made me. I love the realism of it, and I think that's why I said I thought it was better than Super Dimensional Fortress Macross.
Sure.
And the stuff. It really felt like of all the ways that people died in this one, it completely different than how it was depicted over in Macross.
Well, and I mean they're telling two very different types of stories. Right? I mean, they're both considered war anime, right? I mean, one's definitely hardcore science fiction, and this one far more grounded in a level of reality. Mm-hmm. But they are compared often because, of course, we're talking about two fighter plane anime that came out just a couple years apart in the 80s. So I get the comparisons. We did a bunch of them here, but they really are telling two dramatically different stories. It's without a doubt. So whereas the fighter jets may not have been as well rendered in Macross, that wasn't what they were going for. They were going for the fantastical. It was, people were there for robots and the giants and the love triangle and all that shit. There's a lot of other shit happening. And Area 88 said, we're going to keep it right here, this one military base in this godforsaken desert. We are just going to torture these guys for 3.5 hours. And I'm into it, man. And I wish I'd never seen the series that came out later, because to me, this was really powerful in and of itself. I remember having seen it and then knowing later on when in like 2004, when the series came out, I was like, oh, I don't need to see the series. Like I saw the OAV and that was fucking great. Mm-hmm. And But now I am curious about it a little bit, and I think I might try and visit the series. It's only 12 episodes. I'll probably pick it up. I'm curious how if they spend more time with the subject matter that I found so powerful in this, or if they're going to just try and gloss it over in the typical post 2000s shiny anime fashion that everything seems to do. Because, yeah, man, anime in the 80s and 90s weren't afraid to tell heavier stories. I'm just saying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were deeper and more visceral, and
It just felt like they were taking more chances because they knew they had a bigger palette, I guess. Like we can't do cute. Disney's got that shit on lock. Ghibli's coming out. They got this shit on lock. Let's tell our own stories. And it just felt like Wild West for cartoons, I guess.
mm-hmm.
I had a feeling that in regards to the character design and when they were drawing them, it felt like it was a sketchbook that could have been of models in Cosmopolitan.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I do. I see what you're saying.
Like these were the sketchbook for The Devil Wears Prada. And
particularly when they were in their civvies, like it was a lot of that. You're going, oh, these are some fashionable motherfuckers.
No, he was making a statement. Shin was making a statement, and before he made a statement, he did like a shoulder drop with his jacket. He threw it over his back. I'm like, that's just not fucking necessary. Nobody fucking.
But they did in the 80s.
or they did in Arslan. Oh fuck. All right. Lest we dive too far into things, I guess is probably a good time for us to maybe wrap this up a little. So we'll start with final thoughts across the board. I don't really have a lot of musings before we jumped into it. Apparently, again, the manga ends on a much happier note than the animes. Either of them, apparently. Lots of aircraft porn. In episode 3, he gets an F-20, which is kind of funny because that's a plane that never saw full military production or combat. So somehow McCoy is next level because he can get prototype planes. It's kind of a fun thing. Oru Shintani, the creator of this, also created the early to mid 90s I Dream of Mimi, the Butobi CPU anime. It's the erotic comedy. Same dude. So two dramatically different types of anime. It was very
totally different genres.
Yeah, I was impressed is why I wrote the note down. I was like, damn, he didn't have a lane. He had a highway. He's like, I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna go over here. So
completely different than Ghost in the Shell guy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Shiro has a lane. He stays in his lane. Everybody loves his lane. He drives so pretty in that lane. This motherfucker, he's like, I'm gonna take this exit. I'm gonna merge back in.
I still love Colonel Albuquerque. That's him.
Yeah, that's him for sure. So that impressed me a bit. But I mean, yeah, just the wiki page has just a list of every type of plane they put in this. So if airplane porn's your jam, hit the wiki. It'll give you everything you need. On that note, let's
put that in the show notes.
Yeah, I'm gonna totally put it in the show notes. Yeah. On that note, I guess we'll hand it over to you guys. Let's start with you, Vic. Area 88. Did you watch it in the 90s? And if so, how does it compare to that now for you?
Okay, so did watch the first two. I can't remember if I saw the third or not. Because, back then, I think it was released as 3 VHS. And then eventually, I think it was on 2 DVDs. I'm not sure. Maybe it was even 3. I don't recall. But like I said, I clearly remember watching the first 2. And I remember parts of the third, but I don't recall a lot of the third. So I thought it was great. Like we mentioned early on in the episode, it had it felt a lot like Iron Eagle. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it's still worth a watch. I mean, is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it gut-wrenching? Yes. Is Kanzaki the biggest pile of trash in the series? Absolutely. And so, yeah, I enjoyed it. People should watch it. It never gets enough love anymore. Much like everything else from that time frame.
All right. Yeah. The whole reason that we do this show, to sort of just bring these older anime to light. Lynette, I'll go over to you now. Your first time with Area 88, I'm assuming, since that seems to be our MO.
Yeah, it seems to be the pattern.
Like, we're not picking on you, we promise.
It's very exciting. I've actually never watched Iron Eagle either, so I have no idea about your references that you guys are doing. So I know.
Brian is aghast right now, for those of you listening in.
Like,
I-
Iron Eagle is the quintessential. If I'm a military brat, you need to watch this movie.
It is, yeah, without a doubt. It's how you get your stripes as a military brat.
All 117 movies.
That's right.
yeah. No, I've never watched that one, but I've seen all the other ones. So, but anyway, I digress.
We love you still. We love you still.
That's right.
The series, the three were very good. I was very surprised about how the third one was twice as long as the first two. I was like, oh, we're getting somewhere. I did enjoy how the second one ended with him going back to Area 88, even though he said, F this, I'm going home. He pulled a Cartman, screw you guys, I'm going home, and wound up going to Area 88.
Which is home.
Which is home. Which is home. I did feel bad for the girl who tried her hardest to get him to come back and kind of just did not succeed in anything. She couldn't pay for him to come back. She couldn't convince him to come back. She couldn't even find where he was at, So it was kind of like she was running on a hamster wheel. I saw that little trial. I was like, oh. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Not surprised that I had never seen it when I started my anime trek, but thankful that I'm watching it now.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely outside the wheelhouse for a lot of anime viewers. Yeah, it had a lot of notoriety when it came out. I mean, again, enough to spawn a game, but with Western audiences, I don't know. It's definitely one of those, I guess, a little more niche anime. So yeah, happy to bring you into the fold on that one, my friend Brian. Let's talk about it. 388. Did you see it back in the 90s?
I saw the cover.
Well, my Blockbuster
because
had
you didn't
it.
come over enough.
My Blockbuster had it, so I rented the shit out of it. Again, as like the sole anime patron of the Naranja Blockbuster Video, I rented everything on that shelf a bunch of times. So this was your first time with it. So lay it on me. How do you feel?
Well, I had to turn off a lot of who I am to truly enjoy it. I did enjoy their aircraft form. Enjoyed it immensely. It gave me an aeronautical Woody that I'm proud to sport.
Sometimes the best kind.
But I found myself having an issue with the plot, and there's so much to be said in terms of just if you really just think about this from a regional standpoint, we're talking about somebody who is Japanese, and Japanese, we're talking about the kamikaze pilots from World War II. There's a rich history of devotion to aviation there. Same thing goes with obviously America. There's something to be said about the truth in Mickey's character. Yeah, we just celebrated a whole movie of Top Gun Maverick, where somebody who should have been an admiral can't seem to get his shit right because he's still in the fucking cockpit. There's a lot of truth in certain this. The only thing that doesn't seem like it's true is Shin's character in terms of being the number one pilot, and he hates doing his job. Not with aeronautics, not with aviation. That's not one of the things that I could see you having such a hard job being an objector. You would have found a way to crash yourself into a mountain a long time ago. And it seemed like it was very easy for him to continue to survive. And something that he should have been killed a long time ago, even if that moment of distraction from I don't want to do this got into the cockpit with him at the same time. So I have an issue with that. But there's a lot to really love, even in spite of that. Does it hold up? Yep. We can basically take this whole movie and put it into Top Gun Maverick, and you're right back to where we are right now. So, yeah, it holds up. I would recommend it. And I'm excited to hear what your keep calm is on this one.
Yeah, that's a rough one. I too, obviously, I told you guys at the start of the show, I picked this up in '92 a bunch of times, watched it a bunch of times, loved it, loved the airplane porn, thought it was all that and a bag of chips. Yeah, I do feel it holds up. There are things that bug me about it, like a note that I wrote that I didn't even get to talk about. The fact that these guys are apparently all friends, but they're not that good of friends because Shin was only 20 grand away from leaving. He could have got like $1,000 loan from every one of his friends and gone home. Nobody, like, apparently 20 G's was chump change, according to Mickey, not 10 minutes earlier, but he couldn't be bothered to just give Shin the last 20 G's since his plane was crashed. He would just be like, just go home, man. Like, could have done that. There's easily 20 pilots in his unit, or his wing. Like, they could have, like, put out $1,000 each, send him home. It was clear. That was his whole thing. So they obviously weren't
way more than that on bullets. So
obviously weren't that good of friends. I'm just saying. So things like that kind of bugged me a little bit about it. I liked that they spent time building that world up for you, even though it was so basic. McCoy was the go-getter. If he needed anything, he had ins and he could bring it to you, even a whole fucking fighter jet. And he was a character that we didn't really get to talk about that I thought was interesting. Like, here's this guy profiteering off of this civil war, and he's just gleeful as fuck about it. He's a different kind of villain, I guess. Yeah, this anime, if you're not really interested in the military-industrial complex and you're not worried about how we make soldiers or VA or any of that stuff, this anime is still fun for you. This anime is still exciting. It's action-filled. It's a lot of these things. If you grew up around soldiers, or soldiers, veterans, people who served in Nam and died of Agent Orange, or people who served in Iraq and came back different than they were, served tours, and just like getting the military out of your head. This anime talks about that a bit, and it's kind of great for that, because not a lot of medium does do that. And here we got an anime from Japan carrying that weight. Then this anime is also for you. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot here for anybody. Just like old anime, great. You like action, great. You like melodrama, there's a bit of that in here too. You like absolute fuckers for villains that you wish would die, you got your guy. They're in here. Yeah, do check it out. I don't know if the series is any good. I have no idea. But these 3 episodes from 1985 and 1986, these are excellent. They're excellent film, and I cannot recommend it enough. Definitely check it out. On that note, I guess we'll wrap it up. So until next time, keep calm, and remember, value your life. It'll last a whole lifetime. Deep Thoughts by McCoy.
You've just been privy to the mindless midlife musings of the anime nerd, presented by Geek Grotto. Follow the podcast on Twitter @Geek Grotto. For show notes and corrections, or for general geeky fun, you can visit our website at geek-grotto.com. If you would like to sponsor the show, you can do so on the podcast's Red Circle host site, redcircle.com/shows/MMMAN. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, please like, follow, and subscribe.